Hello there, and welcome back to our Orlando Timelapse series. In today's episode, we are creating the next building in our endeavor of creating this theme park. As you probably watched the last episode where we created the cinema, this building that we are creating today will not be nearly as hard as the cinema. Having said that, it still took me quite some time to get things going here. It's again the layouting phase, and I'm just assuming now, since we have a systematic approach of how to deal with scale and proportion with this ruler, that there's a shift happening, where we might spend a little bit more time in the initial pre-planning phase to actually speed up the detailing phase afterwards. Once we set proportion right here, we don't always have to go back and eyeball it. When the proportion is set directly right here at the start, we can always rely onto that. And in the end, we should then also be way faster. I mean, when we speak about the time it takes to create another building, I think you can't really make a right comparison here. I mean, when you say, okay, I need it for this building here, roughly 40 minutes in a time lapse where it's sped up by 10 times, versus the Emporium building, for example, then surely you can't really compare that. And it's also the thing when I then take the Anaheim Park and Planco 1, for all those buildings, which took way less time, you also can't really make a fair comparison here. So if it actually saves us time in the end, I'm not too certain here. But because we don't constantly have to backwork to make something in the right scale, it at least feels more structured and intentional. Regardless of what building we are creating next here, we can always rely on the same workflow. And this might sound simple at first, but it has such a huge consequence on everything that we are creating here. Previously, without this system, there was always the danger of creating something that might look correct in the moment as you are creating it, but later you suddenly realize the proportion is off. And who knows, maybe you use that wrong proportion in order to judge all your other details on another building. Yeah, well, you have to completely readjust now. And so exactly something like this here is there in helping to prevent that. Regardless if it saves us now time, we simply have another safety belt. And as you can slowly see, our facade is taking shape now. So regarding this building, I don't think that there is too much to talk about again. It's not another prominent one like the cinema or the confectionery. I wouldn't say it's a filler building, but it's clearly a secondary or even tertiary building that is just there to emphasize all the more important buildings around it. In its architectural structure, it follows very closely to the cinema. We have what you would call another Renaissance facade with, I would add, mostly cubic details. So the only rounded details that you will see on this building here are pretty much those windows and the trim above it, including the bigger one that you will later see where it says watches. And I feel like this makes this design extremely strong in a way. Now it's not only about the building logic, how those elements are arranged in a certain way, or the color and how you can create a specific contrast, but suddenly you also have a difference in how you express all those details, that they follow a certain geometry. And so maybe when you are on the lookout for certain new ideas for your own park projects, it could be something like this here, that you commit to a certain geometric form. Maybe you limit yourself intentionally to only use rounded elements now. Or when it comes to designing a station, try to limit yourself only to pyramid shapes. There we are again at Engine de Poitrine. But you kinda get what I mean here. When you limit yourself intentionally, you can so much easier focus on the creative aspect of just building and finding something new. The moment you strip everything away, all of those endless possibilities of what you could actually create with all those different pieces in the game you are only left with this one form. And then you can finally focus on how to optimize it in the most creative way possible. That's, by the way, also the reason why I like art shapes so much, because you can really perfecting a certain form or getting a certain design out of them that was initially completely out of your mind, not even possible to imagine. You see, we don't even have to take it literally here. So it's not actually about creating now a station building only out of pyramid shapes. I mean, you can try it, and it certainly would be pretty amazing, I'm sure. But it's the thing that sometimes simplicity or minimalism works way better for the human eye. You can understand something so much more easier when you first see it, when it has a readable silhouette, when it's naturally calm in its expression to our eyes. When you would have there instead 10 different elements and they have all different textures applied to them, your mind would immediately notice chaos and what the hell is going on, right? And I feel like when you take this aesthetic perspective inside this game here, you have a way easier time when building or finding a new idea, or you can create something in an unusual way. And I don't mean that you completely build now something super abstractly, like an empty void or something. But when you test out things in a very simple form-driven way, you oftentimes already get some ideas. And those ones are sparkling new ideas. And suddenly you have a whole framework of how to build something, just because you limited yourself intentionally on a few pieces. This could be also a possible reason why many people struggle so hard, because they are getting overwhelmed by all those possibilities. When they quickly load into the park and they suddenly have this idea, oh, I want to create like this Western themed area. Then you open up the content browser and you suddenly have like 200, 300, 400 pieces that you could theoretically use in a very creative way and make that happen. And so your mind completely gets exposed to that creative overload, and you might want to quit the game instead and do something much more calmer for your mind. I could imagine the more you play this game, the less you have this happening. But when you are completely fresh into this new game and you suddenly realize that you can make a Western themed building in like 10, 20, 50, in endless ways possible, not even talking about a whole area, I would have full sympathy that the player says, wait, this is too much, I have to do something else. And to be honest, I can't blame them, because as I said also in the last episode, creating a theme park with all the different sub-layers that there are, it's one of the most complex things that I could only imagine of planning. Now certainly not everybody has the same mindset, okay, I want to create now my theme park also in a realistic manner, like in reality, but because the game is the way it is, offering options of creating a coaster, flat ride, a track ride, and scenery, all of those things are in a way bound and borrowed from inspirations of the real world. So even if you want or not, simply by placing something down, it's already in some way related to our world. And therefore, most people, when they see certain things like that, because they saw it of course also in reality in those theme parks, they make this connection. I would say when you ask 9 of 10 people out there, they would always give you the exact same answer. I want to create something similar to a Disney theme park. And it may not even have to look like a Disney theme park, but because the layout and arrangement of this iconic place is so well known, we make this initial first reference, even if you want or not, I believe. When I think how I can make a park entrance to another park, I would immediately think of some station building with maybe a railroad, and from there on I'm already in this territory. Or when I simply just place down a path and align some buildings on the side, from there on I have Main Street in the back of my mind. And so I feel it's extremely difficult, in fact, to create something completely new without any references to the iconic design of those Disney parks. That's kinda my suspicion here. Once people enter the universe of Planco, because they always have this cross-reference in their mind, they are trying to create something similar in the same scale. And that's mostly where things start to fall apart. Trying to create a different but similar experience with rides, coasters, dark rides, the storytelling aspect, how you set architecture, how you can affect people's motion through the park, how you can use color or distance, weenies. All of those sub-layers add up, and it's a huge bulk at the end where you have to know how they are handled and done in reality if you want to create a realistic park. I mean, that's kinda the implied requirement here, that you want to display a realistic looking park. But the point that I'm trying to get around here is most people get overwhelmed not only by the gameplay mechanics and how you place things in this game, but the knowledge that you have to learn in some way in order to make up a good foundation, how theme parks work, what is a good design, what is color theory, how can I use sound in a specific way and make up a certain emotion. Nobody says you have to learn them, but you can't deny that they use those exact principles when designing a real theme park in reality. After all, there's a specific logic behind all of that, why certain things work and why not. I feel like that there is a huge gap right now that could be filled by Fronty. You see, right now there are tutorials, gameplay instructions of how you can place things in this game. It's surely nice and we need it. But what I think would be so much more powerful in giving people a valuable and educational course of how a theme park actually works and operates. I mean, let's be honest, even the greatest park simulation in the world does nothing to me if I don't understand what I'm actually creating here. So how do I design a station? What has to be there in order to make it function? What do I have to respect when I want to create a coaster? How many block sections do I need in order to make a continuous flow in the coaster itself, that you don't have crowd congestion happening? And especially, where should I start first? How big should this initial area be? Maybe there are great references out there that I would just love to know and study. You see, it's not only about teaching a player the technical instructions how to play the game, getting used to the UI and so on, but there's a valuable second layer of it, how to actually create a theme park. How does that work? And that's currently at least completely missing here. Now, I'm not saying that Fronty has to do that, but since they are the creators of this wonderful theme park simulation, I think it only makes sense if it would came from them. I mean, they clearly have some experience when designing coasters, drag rides and so on, and also finding a proper scenery theme. But even in the rare case that they not, why not simply get an actual theme park designer inside the studio in creating an educational course how to create a proper theme park? That would be the perfect introduction into this game. Surely you have your gameplay tutorial that teaches you the game itself and the UI. But how cool would it be to be actually guided through some theme park examples right inside this game? Then all players, and especially new ones, they would immediately get what it's about and how I can start on my own park. But instead, right now, if a new player is playing this game, he might tackle those career maps, but eventually he will transition over to the sandbox, and in that moment he is completely let alone by himself in that green landscape. So who knows if Fronty will do that? My assumption is they will not. Not because they would do that actually, but because there are so many other things currently going on, namely Planco 2, to which we will come just in a second. But when you break down Planco 1 here, that was also the big thing I found so very educational and valuable there. You had there an animal glossar that informed you about every animal inside the game, and where you actually learn something beyond the game. It's not only about creating your zoo, but all those animals inside your zoo are suddenly becoming a meaning. There's a reason why you are now designing this zoo. That's where emotional value becomes apparent. And I feel like something like that we are kinda missing in the Planco series. It's of course a little bit more tricky because you don't have this emotional element of animals inside your park. But in theory, when you would have there like a framework in place that teaches you realistic park creation or how you design a coaster properly, all of those things could help you in the very beginning when you are starting completely on your own. And over time, I would be absolutely certain that you find your own rhythm here, your own style and direction. Nobody says that you have to learn certain things again. But since it's the best theme park simulation out there currently, I would kinda expect something like that because not every one of us is creating a fantasy themed park. We might want to create something realistic looking, but we just don't know how to achieve it. And before I have to study all those things on my own outside of this game on YouTube or when reading books, why not show it in a playful way directly inside this game? It's like made for that. Now, even if I stand behind what I said until now and absolutely would appreciate if something like that would be done in some way, I can also understand and sense the direction of non-intention of this game. That there is no deeper layer behind it other than to just build your park out of pure imagination. Maybe it's only the creative game it is and wants to be seen as that. And that's absolutely fine. And to that point, I think it also has to be said that a game developer is not a park designer and vice versa. Those are two different areas of expertise and I can't completely throw them together in expecting the perfect realistic theme park simulation that even teaches you realistic park construction. And again, when I talk about that, I can already sense that all of that seems rather selfish because this is my subjective opinion of how the game should maybe be in some way. I'm certain that there are so many other players right now who enjoy this open-endedness, that the game can be whatever you want the game to be in the end. But still, I would kinda argue here, since we always have the long-term success of this game in mind and how we might can get new players into it, I would just think it would be a great idea to have there something in the very opening of this game that goes beyond this game. It's not only about creating your park right inside this game, but you actually take something with you and where you later on, maybe when you have your work, you are kind of thinking about those things in your head and you picture yourself how a possible new area could look like. You see, it's not about forcing a specific building direction that you only stubbornly follow in the way, but because you receive this input, your mind adapts to that and gets you start on thinking creatively. You are not left alone in this queen landscape by, then go start building, but you actually start forming building ideas that start appear to you when you are not in the game. And the next time you launch a planned coaster, you immediately have something to work with, and your park can evolve from that. So, I don't know, maybe I gone beyond the rails here. I could endlessly continue on this subject, and I would love to hear your opinion about it. But at this point, I think it's reasonable that we also talk about Planet Zoo 2. So as I'm recording this, today is the day where they launched this trailer that showcases pretty much early footage and what we kinda can expect, and where they also announced the release date of this game, which will be in October of this year. Now, at the first, I want to tell you my experience with the prequel of it. As you probably know, Planet Zoo launched in 2019, 3 years after Planet Coaster. And during that time, I was still on my endeavor of recreating Anaheim. And so I can roughly remember once I was at New Orleans Square and where I recreated also the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, they were about to release it. And I mean, they also heavily announced it prior to that that I was of course thinking at the time, what could I create now inside this game? And the most obvious choice fell on the idea of recreating Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is part of this Disney World environment, where it's on one half a zoo and on one half a theme park. So it's a kinda interesting combination of how those two things can merge together in a way. So I'm going to show you now some screenshots that show you the progress of this park. I made it only partially beyond the entry area, and the main reason why I did not continue on this park was the realization that a recreation of this place is actually extremely difficult. So especially when you see the area image of this park, you have such a hard time in guessing what an area looks like, because most of the park's coverage that you see from the air is filled by trees and foliage. You can't see what is happening below. Therefore, you are completely dependent on POV footage. So pretty much people that just walk down the path and they are kind of recording with their shaky camera, and you secretly hope that they just look there where you want them to look. And it's all a mess because most of the time you can't pinpoint where certain things are in relation to the park. When you can see them from above, you can't pinpoint where it is actually in a 3D space inside this game. And that's the main reason why you only see now this entry area in a way. Now, another reason why I stopped was the realization that you also don't have any coasters you can put inside your park, meaning the biggest weenie in this entire park, Expedition Everest, is not possible. And on top you even have the limitation that you can't put the entire park inside the map of Planet Zoo. And so all of those things kinda bothered me at the time, and where I was way much more happy with my Anaheim Recreation, to which I stick then. Until today I never really came back to this park, or even the idea of giving it a second shot. But I gotta say, now that we have Planet Zoo 2 announced, and seeing all those amazing things that I recently saw in this trailer, there is a very tiny portion in me that is actually pretty excited of maybe at least partly recreating it. I'm not speaking here of the whole park because I think it's a ridiculous amount of effort that you have to spend, and I think you can only achieve it when you are directly at the location itself and see it in front of your eyes, because otherwise how are you gonna judge depth and proportion and scale of where all those things are? I mean, you could of course always say you don't stick so very accurate as we do here, so that it's much more of a interpretation than an actual recreation. But I'm just pretty happy that we finally have there again something on the horizon where we can kinda expect something new. And as I saw the trailer, there were certain bits in it that I am pretty sure are currently not a feature in the prequel. But don't judge me too hard here, I could be very wrong, since as I just said, left this game behind a long time. And so I think that you can finally make now proper aquariums where you put your sea life creatures into it and fencing around it, and people can kinda see then your animals. I'm not too certain if that was also a feature in the prequel, but at least it looked very advanced and highly polished. I mean, the whole visuals that you are seeing in this trailer, you could fairly say that we even get another bump up in realistic lighting. And then I also saw like this super neat feature that you can finally have birds also in your park that are flying around and that they are kind of interacting then with your environment, which is absolutely amazing because I think it tightens the connection between what you are creating and what you are creating it for. That those two worlds are combined. I mean, that's always the big ambition we are onto here, that we are creating here enough immersion, that this world not only looks like a world, but that it actually feels like a world. So my first impression of this little teaser here is actually quite amazing, and it already gives out the right sign here to us as customers that we can expect to see here something polished and unique, and where you can again create your own little world. Now, even having said that, I'm not too certain right now how they are gonna deal monetization, because I already saw that they announcing pre-order content or pretty much stuff that you leaving for the people that pay a little extra, right? Or in other words, missing content of the original title. Now, we've spoken about that before in another episode where Planet Zoo comes a lot more off the hook here than Planet Coaster, on the other hand, when you would try to do something the very same, since you have this cozy and emotional attachment to animals. When there are certain animals missing, this doesn't really feel all that relevant because you have so many of them. If it's now not a lion, a tiger, or an elephant, right? But if you strip away a certain coaster in Planet Coaster, on the other hand, it feels much more like I'm missing out on stuff that should be in the base game. But getting back to Planet Zoo here, the biggest question I think will be how they will handle reintroducing already existing animals from the prequel. I mean, when you already paid extra for a certain DLC with a bunch of specific animals in the prequel, do you really want to package now those exact animals, of course with advanced animations, advanced visuals and so on, a second time? And it's not only affecting animals, but also scenery themes. It's the same issue that we are kinda having from Planco 1 to Planco 2. You are coming into the strange situation that you previously enjoyed something or had something in the park that is suddenly missing, despite being or presenting itself as the more advanced sequel, the number 2 of this game. And that's also partly the reason why I don't like this prequel-sequel idea. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love those games, and it's great that we are having them. But once you introduce this serialization, you produce games like on our assembly line, you are getting this rhythm again that you release a game, then you make all those DLCs, and when that's finished, that's the end of this game, and then the new one appears. And in a way, I feel it's much more interesting if you don't end a game at all, that you just expand it or update it in such an extreme form that you at the end only have one that combines all the qualities of all those previous games. Ironically, this already happened in the very past. When you think back to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, it was much more built around this base game, and you add not only some DLCs but a whole expansion pack. So something where it's not only like you have the base game and then some DLCs around it, but you have the base game, and then those expansion packs are basically our own game in itself, so that they are designed in a way that they could also work as a singular game. That's kind of the thing that I'm missing here. You could bring all those lovely worlds together in one complete universe, where all of those communities, the one of Planet Coaster and the one of Planet Zoo, merge together. And then you only working on this one package to make it extremely strong in itself. Otherwise, you might get the impression that one game gets currently prioritized over another one, and that we might see a game, if it doesn't perform well, die. And that's the worst thing that can only happen if you have people in it who care about it, probably even after buying for each DLC that is there. Especially when you compare the games that we are currently having, what is really separating them? When we think about it, we suddenly realize that only the subjects that we are placing down are different. So instead of a coaster, we are placing down animals. The actual scenery themes that we are placing down could work in both titles. You wouldn't even know the difference if you disable the UI of the game. And therefore, why not just unify everything? This whole foundation and alone the naming convention of a planet, which in a way implies that you have one complete world that is sadly separated in a way because you have two different gaming titles, that all doesn't really make a lot of sense, if you ask me. And when we take an approximate guess in the future how this will continue, then I think we can safely assume that there will be Planet Coaster 3 on the horizon already. Maybe in the time as I'm speaking, it gets already worked on. I mean, I'm kinda getting it from a commercial point of view, that you work on certain projects, you release over 3 or 4 years and then you work on something else again, it gets again sold for a full price title. What I would argue, when you really care about the fascination of theme parks and what makes this subject so interesting to us as humans, where it's not only about the amusement that we are getting, the excitement when you are on a lift hill on another thrilling coaster, but also the storytelling aspect of how you design a ride, how you arrange it, how you place scenery themes in a specific way, trying to expose a certain emotion of us, of humans. And therefore, why limit yourself from this made-up limitation of having separated worlds here? When I want to create a zoo with a coaster in it, why should I not be allowed to do it? And vice versa. When I want to design a Fantasyland-like inspired area, why not make the whole place a lot more livelier by placing down animals? You see, both of those things, they profit from each other. They get even stronger in the end. So I think I made my point now here. Am I happy that they announced Planet Zoo 2? Hell yes I am. But it of course implies that we most certainly not see both worlds being combined in the future. I mean, there we are again at subjectiveness. This is my opinion, what should happen next. So far I have not even saw any hint of Frontier that they might be onto something like that. But you can tell me that they not at some point thought about that scenario. It's like the final puzzle piece that awaits us in both of those games currently. I mean, what is happening once Planet Zoo 2 releases? You might get this whole DLC policy over multiple years even, but do we really expect to see Planet Coaster 3? I don't know about you, but with each sequel that we are adding here, the weight of those games is kinda shrinking. They always have to introduce something new to stay relevant. I mean, that's mostly what is happening also when you see a specific movie series. So when we take Lord of the Rings, we would all agree that the first one is probably the best one. Maybe not the most epic one and where the most stuff is happening, but because it's the first one, it has a special place there. It introduced this whole world and universe. And I think the same principle also applies to Planet Coaster, with introducing this special way of how you can design a theme park inside a video game. Even though the sequel is way more advanced in all departments, I would say, the first one will still be in the back of my mind when I think about this game. But regardless, if we might see a fusion happening at some time, I can't evade in saying that we finally have again something that awaits us and where we can really be excited about it. I mean, we went through the awkward silence during the winter and New Year to suddenly be presented by this amazing Mainstreet DLC that awaits us in not even 3 weeks from today. And beyond that, now with the announcement of Planet Zoo 2, we will certainly get way more previews and little sneak peeks about this upcoming game. Especially on YouTube, I was very happy to see a lot of content creators that I knew from the past that were creating content on Planet Coaster, but also especially Planet Zoo, coming back, which is simply amazing. And lastly, I honestly believe if it weren't for some of those creators, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm very certain that I'm not the only one. There were countless of people who just entered this world of the Planet series only because they at some day watched a random video online who kinda got them into all that stuff. So at this point I would like to return to our building today. We managed to build the entire upper section of this building and are currently almost done also with the bottom section. I mean, on many parts this facade was pretty straightforward. What I can remember, especially on this bottom section, I had to find some way in order to get this nimbleness. So when you see the columns on the left and right, you can see that there are areas on this column that are beveled inwards. And this was quite a bit tricky because I had also to model them now around this corner, since we are having this little entrance area that gets set back inside the facade. And so, since we are working in such a small scale range, it can get really messy quickly. When you aren't cautious, you can have many duplicates, which is of course not ideal because we want to stay most effective. And so especially on those corners, I had to double check if I only also have those pieces that you see from the outside. But all in all, I'm fairly happy with the result here. Of course, when you see the reference image on the side, there are certain ornamentations that are either too complex or too rounded in their visuals that aren't really justified for such a secondary building. So as we are coming closer to the completion of this building, I would like to take those remaining minutes in talking about this project. So for the last couple of days I had quite some thoughts going on regarding the series and the progression in the park, but also what awaits us in the future with all those DLCs and so on. But eventually I came about one thing that kinda annoyed me about my own decision that I made a couple of months from today. And since I like to stay as transparent as I can to you, I have to address them directly right here in this video. So as you probably know, I'm offering a membership right here on YouTube or on Patreon. Now back then, when I initially launched this membership, I thought it would be a great idea to give members who are most certainly very deep into this project a unique insight behind the scenes to get pre-access to this park. Now back then there was also the other reason that I feared my park getting copied over. So once it's public, people can of course extract stuff out of it and republish it as their own. Which, at least from today's perspective, seems absolutely ludicrous to even think that, because once it's public, everyone knows this is the original park, right? We are in the 44th episode and I would argue everybody in the Planco niche knows in some way about it. But the more and more I thought about those things in the last couple of weeks, it slowly dawned on me that the reason why people become a member is not because they want access to an exclusive file or something, but they are simply excited about this project and therefore they support it, maybe even for the long run. It's the fascination of seeing this whole world emerge. That's also what drives this time-lapse series every time, that you see everything from the very start to the very end, on a well-known location that you probably even went to yourself, so you have an emotional connection attached to it. And that's probably also the reason why you support it then. Now I thought long and hard on what I should do then, and the only possible solution that I can see here is that I step away from giving out free access to this park and make the park instead public. So you heard that right. At some point I will make this park public. I will not directly make a date on it, but when you follow the evolvement of Planco, you can kinda assume when this will be. The exact way how this will work then is, whenever a new episode is coming out on YouTube and presents a new building or something else, I will sync that with the park file. That means whenever you see something right here in the video, you can be assured that this thing is now in your updated park file. But I have to say, doing it in that way feels so much more right to me, at least. At the same time, I have absolute sympathy to every member out there who might be upset about that, since that's perhaps the reason why he subscribed in the first place. And for all those members who I might leave behind here, I want to apologize and say I don't want to take here anything away from you. But I just see if I keep continuing this thing here, it's a paywall to some sort, and I just don't want to make that impression to people. So please, if you don't comply with that, don't support me anymore. That's simply the wrong intention. I feel we come to a point in this park where it deserves to be discovered. It's not like 1 year ago where we were still partly beyond the railroad station, but now we have a halfway built Main Street in place. And so therefore I have to make now this correction. If you still want to become a member or stay one, first of all, thank you very much for supporting not only me, but especially this project. There are certain benefits still, like that you are seeing where we are actually in the park right now, and a few other things to which I will make a video at some time. But I don't want to brand them off or advertise them as the main reason why you should become a member. The main reason why you should become a member is simply you want to support this project, maybe even for the long term. So I think I made all those points pretty clear. If you are wondering, I also wrote all those things already to all members. Honestly, I don't want to make a super big thing out of it, but since I offered this pre-access thing, I have to address it here. But not gonna lie, once this park is public, I'm quite excited and curious about people's reaction when they first started up. Is it running well for them, or are they having certain issues, or maybe they see something that could be improved? Especially regarding the performance of this game, I could never test this park obviously on a bigger audience. So it will be quite exciting to open finally the gates here, and I'm also certain that all of you currently watching, it will be so much more fun also to interact with those videos, because you can directly go inside the game after you watch this episode and see all the new stuff that is being created. And especially for improvement, this is huge, because you can directly pinpoint me to certain specifics and saying, okay, exactly on this spot, maybe it should be in a different color or in a different way done. And the next episode I can kinda react then to that, and we have this indirect workflow going with you not only as a viewer, but as an active part of this whole endeavor. So I hope that my whole explanation until now makes kinda sense to you, and why certain things have to be adjusted here. And on a final note, there's also a new format coming. I'm not gonna tell exactly what it is, but I think it fits perfectly into this whole endeavor that we are onto, in giving a satisfying new angle of what we are creating here. As you can see in the background, we have finished this building, and as always we will take a quick jump into the real-time section here. So as always, let me welcome you back to our real-time section. I just want to make sure for everybody that skipped ahead in this video here, we watch maybe the last chapter, or I just say it here one more time, I will release this park to public. Not today or tomorrow, but you can expect something in this month. But since we are now in our real-time section, we can, as always, appreciate all the details, and I'm slowly coming to our building that we have created today. And I would say it's another one of those buildings that are not directly in the spotlight. It has this much more classical approach, and the whole facade logic is pretty simple. But it works in a way in order to support the buildings around it. It's another one of those auxiliary buildings that take themselves backwards in order to let all the buildings around them to the forefront. It makes room for the cinema on the right side. That's one of the things that make this Main Street so incredible, I would say. That you play here with the logic of bringing facades to the fore and background. That you have this interplay happening. That not every building has the exact same dimensions or proportions, and that you can almost detect a certain hierarchy in how they are arranged. I mean, when I would build a park on my own at someday, I don't know if I ever will, but let's assume for a second that I would, then exactly this one principle that you have there, this hierarchy happening, that would be the first thing that I would transfer. It's like the secret sauce, I would say. It makes everything so much easier to read. When you make a certain structure in the exact same proportion every time, then people don't know where to look at or where to go to. you have to guide their eyes and their whole perception to a specific area, and therefore you have to make certain things bigger, smaller, maybe even with color or sound. Oh, and by the way, since I skipped right now what I was doing in the real-time section, I'm actually testing out if people evading the tram. Since in a recent video of Taggy, he told us that they actually do evade the track of a certain ride. So I'm just suspecting it doesn't really work right here, because the actual ride for my tram is 4 meters below the ground, and so those people probably never get triggered by the initial track itself. But this kinda leads me also to the assumption that they have to bring on this parade thing in making those parade cars invisible. Or at least in such a simple form that you can easily customize around it. I mean, if we have highly detailed themed parade cars already, then it's really difficult to make something special and unique, right? And so maybe they have something of both happening here, I could imagine. You can, if you are lazy, have the default parade happening there. But if you want to go a little bit more customizable, you just deactivate those parade cars completely and build your own. What a simple fact that we can already talk in such a detailed way about how this could be managed inside this game already tells us that this is a pretty cool feature that a lot of people will like. So I'm obviously very hyped about it, and I'm truly hoping that this will be not monetized, but rather the Main Street styled theming. The entertainment tab keeps me in that regard pretty optimistic here, since I can't imagine that people, if they should not have the DLC, open up this tab and see, oh, I have to buy this now. So there has to be certain things that are monetized and some that are not. But getting back to our park here, I'm just realizing that this lighting setup that I'm currently having here is actually quite beautiful. So this slightly blue tint actually fits this surprisingly well, has something realistic about it. I mean, it's oftentimes the question how we deal with proper lighting here. When we consider reality, there are so many different lighting scenarios that we can not only imagine, but I would always prefer or tend to a much more desaturated, evenly lit day shot where you have a good contrast in shadows, because let's be honest, if it weren't for shadows in this game, it would almost look like the prequel. Especially in a game like this one here, I can't overstate how amazing and important they are in keeping up this immersion that we are needing for this wonderful theme park. So as I'm slowly catching up the end of this video here, I would just quickly address one more time that the duration that it takes me to create such a video here, it takes quite some time, and especially when I compare that to 1 year ago, how long then a video took, so mostly 1 or 2 weeks, now it takes me almost 3 or 4 weeks. And I mean, it's not only the cinematic and just the overall expectation to myself in what I'm talking here, but all of that work that goes also behind the scenes here, that you of course don't see. But I hope you can excuse that, and the most important part here is that we just keep on going, even if it takes maybe 3 or 4 weeks in between. With having said that, I would like to close down now this episode. If you enjoyed it today, please subscribe, like or comment, become a member to support this work, read my typewritten documentary on Patreon, join our Discord server, watch my other videos about Anaheim or Orlando, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.